Okay, holy cripes. Cripes on a cripe cracker. God damn it. Staring at my face while I do things is probably extremely entertaining, isn't it? I bet everybody frickin' loves it. Recorculus. Okay. It looks like we're working again. Maybe. Okay. Burp right in the microphone. That's very, very, very kind. Right? Everybody enjoys that. Jesus. No, that's not it either. Jiminy Christmas. Alright. Well then, as always, Mr. No Bones Live, the place to be. Always up to date. Always with the new and the real. Always up. There we go. All right. Well, let's see. Do. All right. Now chat is back on. And of course, lost all my dang viewers. Everybody who was connected is now not. Because it's a fucking joke, right? Everything's a fucking joke, right? Let's see. No, I made that worse. Let's try it like that. That's probably better. Okay, well, we'll go from here. And picking up where I left off, the snow, and we're talking between, I would say, 4 to 8 inches, 4 to 7 inches, distributed around the greater Texas area, which we know is big. And a lot of people, myself included, are without power and without LTE or 3G. Just you can make phone calls, but you got no internet on your phone either. But I, being a student of the art of decentralization and inspired and educated by Gary LaChance, the founder of the Decentralized Dance Party, and through the art of learning to decentralize a party and then decentralize further, right? So I'm a big fan of batteries and solar and, capturing photons and storing them as electrons for future usage, right? So, and I have an even greater power generation capacity, AC watts wise, but I left my 340 watt DC inverter at the RV, which is in Austin, and which I'm very worried about because I left it not expecting weather like this, and the water is off, but that still leaves water in the lines to freeze. And I left my tanks full, both of them, of clean water to clean them out, in preparation for moving it to mothball it at my family home south of Houston. So I'm pretty worried about the RV and coming home to the potential of like my tanks and all of my plumbing split, which, that's a big job. But I, here in San Antonio, have myself a nice little solar panel and just a little 40-watt inverter with a lithium-ion battery pack attached. And the solar panel in full sun will generate an amp of DC power, and that's how much my solar battery, my inverter battery can take in charging. So it's not a true solar generator system. But it's a nice little, gives me just enough juice to run my Google Fiber modem and etc. So my phone has internet, and I have my fancy schmancy Streamlabs streaming app on my phone. And while I do not have what you call mixing board that I can plug into my phone, I do have this nice little it is a I think it's a Rode. I believe it's a Rode. It's a stereo mic, and it's got a lightning plug on the bottom. Plugs right into your phone. It's a really nice little stereo mic. Even got levels set here on the side and overload protection and all that. So I am able to, and notice all around, I have a new, oh man, there goes my frame rate. What? Excellent condition. Stream health looks good. So I don't know, maybe that's just my monitoring device dragging. Anyway, using my solar energy gathering capacity and my little battery pack inverter, as well as multiple other battery packs that I have purchased and maintained over the years, because as I said, I am a fan of decentralized everything and decentralized power. Especially, I personally believe that every item in your life should be capable of gathering photons, storing them as electrons, and sharing those electrons with everything else around it. And I know we're not quite there yet, but we're getting closer. I'm very excited about clear solar window film as an upcoming technology that exists and is getting better. I am very excited about the proliferation of lithium ion batteries in everything. I am excited about the USB-C protocol. Man, what is up? It says stream health is good, but I look like my frame rate keeps dipping. Oh well. Do what you gotta do, right? It's a fucking, I'm literally in the middle of an exclusion zone. I'm in a place where the grid is fully non-functional, including the over-the-air internet and I don't know about cable internet. From what I hear, people's cable internet is spotty at best. I'm hearing of 30-minute bursts of functionality with long stretches. And they're calling these rolling blackouts, rolling brownouts. But from what a lot of us have observed is, instead of 45-minute cycles, that they're supposed to be sliding a 45 minutes of downtime zone or two or whatever around the city dynamically. And so theoretically, you're only supposed to spend 45 minutes without power. We've had no power for, I'd say we're at or just a little under 12 hours of no power. And, once again, luckily, I spent a good number of years both throwing mobile flash mob dance parties and also spent a good number of years participating in the Central Texas Regional Burning Man or Burning Man Regional community. And one thing about Texas burns, and I've heard this from people who have been to Burning Man multiple times. They're like, wow, man, Texas burns are way, way harder. Thank you, speaker, for powering off. Texas burns are way, way, way more difficult than Burning Man. And that's a that's a thing to say if you know anything about Burning Man. I'm gonna move the mic. You're gonna hear it because I don't have a suspension system for this microphone. So you probably heard a lot of rumbling and bumping and stuff. Yeah, I have this microphone velcroed to a phone holder clamp and a piece of fish tank foam stretched over it for as a windscreen. So, hey man, we're being resourceful, and that's one of the things that living out in the woods for 5 to 8 plus days with no resources except what you bring yourself. So, no power, no water, no food. And then go completely bonkers. Party as hard as you possibly can, as well as, and here's an important distinction. Burn is not a party. Parties happen at the burn, and some of the greatest parties I've ever been to. And if you know me, I've been to some fucking parties. I've thrown some hella parties. I've been to some legendary giant raves, etc., etc., etc. You know, I've been to, I went to Sensation White 2007, which was on 7707, and that was 40,000 people dressed head to toe in white in the Amsterdam, Holland, Netherlands football arena, all gathered around a single central stage. And that stage was an enormous air-blown tree of life that the DJ booth was circular and it rotated, and it was at the bottom of the tree, and the roots came down over the DJ booth, and the trunk extended up above the DJ booth, and the roots went out, and in the ends of the roots were performer platforms where people danced and fire shot out of them. Not the people, the platforms. And the branches of the tree of the life extended all the way up into the dome ceiling of the Amsterdam football arena, and then reached out and then hung over all of the seats and had pods hanging from them. And some of the pods were just giant pulsating air-blown hearts, pulsating with red light. And when you came in, they gave you a necklace that was a heart that once you dipped it in water, it activated it, and all the hearts in the place tried to synchronize with the hearts that were pulsating, hanging from the ceiling. And also hanging from the ceiling, they had balloons that were inflated, and they had aerialists performing inside the balloons in full makeup and costume. They had walking through the arena floor. They had costumed performers, both human size and giant size, like stilt walkers, and even people on the like quadrupedal stilts, right? Or people who were inside of similar to a Chinese lion dance. 2 or 3 people inside a large puppeteered creature that are moving through the arena floor at this enormous rave. And this was in 2007. So, this was after the big. I gotta stop bumping this mic cable. I know you can hear it. Let's put it there. So this was post American rave culture 1.0 crash and burn and disintegrate. And before, in America, we had started up again, and started it with, now Ultra and all of these mega festivals are, 250,000 people, and they make Sensation White look like a dinky little fucking warehouse rave. But you got to imagine, for me, who I had been retired from DJing and partying since 2005. And I actually made a mix for the first time as soon as I got home because I was inspired by where dance music, and especially house music, it was a very house music centered event. There was a little bit of trance, but it was mostly, house, progressive house, and trance. But very impressed with where dance music and partying had gone, because, if you're not aware, in America in the early 2000s, current President Joe Biden enacted a crime bill, which included the crack house law clause or whatever. And that said that a house where people dealt or used crack or drugs, illegal substances, that they would be liable for civil forfeiture. Civil forfeiture being where the police just take your stuff and your money and they don't even have to give it back if you're found guilty. So, here, let's see. So buttons, yo. So me, hey, ho. I'm just messing with this mic, and I just hike. Hey, there we go. Okay, yeah, hit the clipping there. I'm just trying not to hunch to the mic, but by the way, it says I have somebody watching. If you're here, holler in chat. I want to see you on screen. But yeah, the crack house law originally intended to affect communities of color. Part of the crime bill that also is responsible for the explosion of the prison population and especially the disproportionate levels of incarcerated people of color, black men especially, all came from the same crime bill. That once again, yes, I'm very happy we do not have Donald Trump yelling at white supremacists and tweeting about fucking very good people and whatnot. I'm pleased. That's a good thing, of course. But never forget and never let him forget that Joe Biden was one of the main co-authors and co-sponsors of the, I believe it was 1994 crime bill. And one of the unforeseen ways that they utilized the crime bill was cities that, and again, this is late 90s, early 2000s. The internet is just a fledgling communication protocol. I'm going to adjust my camera. And, most people get their news from their local news station. This is kind of pre ubiquity of 24-hour news. So people, see, now it's a little too high. This is funny because my monitoring has a 20-second lag on it because I'm watching myself on YouTube. So, hey man, it is what it is. We're doing our best over here at the MrNoBones.com program. So the media locally in Houston, but also broadly kind of across America, decided to incite a moral panic about raves, rave culture, and rave drug use. And really sold this image of, illicit, evil parties filled with predatory drug dealing candy ravers. And they recognized, they figured out that the crack house law gave them jurisdiction to threaten party promoters and party venue owners, which in Texas tended to be, somebody who had a couple of acres or an acre on the outskirts of town, and they erect some sort of minimalistic building, and they have bathrooms and, power and whatnot. Or a lot of times they were thrown in like ballrooms, like here around here, where you would go to throw a wedding reception or a quinceañera, that sort of place. And those guys had liquor licenses and they're active venues. And then we had basically the first mega rave, the first what you could consider a festival in Houston in 2000, I believe. Correct me, chat, if I'm wrong. It was Transit. Might have been 2000. No, it was definitely 2000 or 2001. Shit. Come on, chat. Help me out. Because you probably went to that party if you're watching my channel right now. But Transit was the giant rave that was thrown in the Houston Astro Arena, which I don't even think they use anymore. If they do, they've probably majorly renovated it. But again, I don't know. I don't live in Houston anymore. Chat, help me out. But the Astro Arena was a place where it used to be a component of the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, obviously a big deal, and then one of the biggest rodeos in the world, and it was where they did the indoor stuff, so indoor concerts and or indoor livestock showing, etc. big, and it was next to the Astrodome. I don't know if I said that or not, but of course the Astrodome back then still being, one of the wonders of the world and whatnot. It was a functional venue as well. And News 2 Houston snuck cameras in and got, uh, uh, you know, cameras ready, prepare to flash. And they put it on the news and were like, look at your kids, look at them eating all of these drugs and laying around and listening to this evil techno music. And so that's when in Houston, that was the first like domino. But similar stories all over. We had your airports and your Electric Daisy Carnival, but the predecessor to today's EDC, and these county commissioners and sheriffs, they were like, no, we're not having this. We're not having this. We're a bunch of good old boys. You ain't gonna be throwing this goddamn techno party and eating your goddamn ecstasy and giving each other them back rubs. It's the devil. So, party scene crashed, burned, and most of the old heads either retired, went underground to the club scene, or just existed on the internet, And then we had the new rise of raves, not called raves anymore. They're called festivals. And now, EDM's not an umbrella term for all electronic dance music. Now, the music that I came back from Amsterdam which then was called Dutch House, and I made a mix of Dutch House and that kind of related genre. You could call it a Dutch house mix. It's available on my SoundCloud. Just find the Konaji mix. It starts with a K, and it's a word in Dutch that means bunny. And I did not hear that song in Holland, but in the Netherlands, I never know which one you're supposed to say. In Amsterdam, I didn't hear it over there, but when I came over here, and it was literally the first song. It was the first track I found in my search to put together a mix CD, and so I listened to it the other day. It's a good CD. You should go and listen to it. It's Konaji, the Konaji mix. Konaji. Como Konaji duma vibala. Como Konaji duma vibala hepon. Ima hepele Sofiene kostom. Como Konaji duma vibala. Como Konaji duma vibala hepon. Ima hepele Sofiene kostom. I can't remember all the lyrics, but yeah, that's fucking Dutch. And it means like go on bunny, wiggle wiggle, go on bunny, do your thing, do your thing, do your dance, come up, do your thing, do your dance, come on little bunny, come on little bunny, You should listen to it. It's a dope track. But I still didn't actually get back into DJing and raving and partying until 2013, 2014, when we started getting involved in the DDP, and soon after we decided to start actively DJing again, and soon after that started burning and gigging, and pretty soon after that the Rumble Monster was born at Ambient Camping, and the Rumble Monster was the most successful musical project that I ever have been a part of. And even though the monster is dead, because it was a duo of me and my ex-wife, I have continued the path that I was on before I ever met her, that led to the creation of Rumble Monster. And since the monster is dead, I carry on the tradition as the Dead Monster. Here, hold on. Hitting the microphone, bumping it, making noise because it's not on a suspension. But this is the Dead Monster. This is my alter ego as a helmeted DJ, as a masked DJ, and I still, all by my lonesome, play a hybrid DJ live PA tribal house experience. And I have a couple of sets of various personas: Mr. No Bones, DJ Fingerling, MC Catch Money, and the Dead Monster. And I have a Dead Monster set that is being plotted and planned right now. So expect in the near future, when maybe our power comes back on and we have internet that's not being powered by a solar panel connected to a battery. Yeah, man, we're gonna have us an old rumble. So catch a Dead Monster set coming up very soon. I also ordered myself a mixing board that plugs into my phone. So while my streaming computer is just, I'm beating my head against the wall trying to make the damn thing work. And I hate Windows, y'all. You got to understand, I came up, my first PC was an IBM PS1, PS2. It was called the Performer, and it's hilarious because it had 75 megahertz Intel. God damn it. Pentium. No, wasn't it? Was it a Pentium yet? I think Pentium was the next chip. It was a 486 SX, 75 megahertz clock speed with 1 megabyte of RAM and I want to say 25 meg hard drive. I didn't have a sound card. I had to buy one. I had to buy a sound blaster. And didn't have a optical drive. I had to buy an external optical drive. Actually, I bought an internal optical drive, but there was not enough space inside the case to install it. So I just took the case off and I rested the dang CD drive, which was just a CD-ROM, not even a CD burner. This was pre-CD burners. And I was a PC guy. I was actually very anti-Apple in a lot of ways. Not just, I was a young, obnoxious Windows PC supremacist, right? And even when the iPhone came out, I was like, fuck the iPhone. I'm not getting a fucking iPhone. I'm gonna fucking buy this Windows mobile phone. Yeah, it doesn't have multi-touch, and yeah, it doesn't have a capacitive screen. It's got that stupid film over the screen, and you gotta use a stylus, and but it's got a flip open keyboard. Look, it's kind of cool. And I even got into like building your own ROMs and bootloader, fucking putting your own customized operating system builds on fucking Windows phones. And I bricked that phone fucking around with bootloading ROMs or whatever they're called. It's not ROMs. It's something else. But I bricked that phone. Got another one. Got another of the same fucking phone. And right after that, right at that time in my life, that is when that was 2000. I'm gonna say 10. When I was offered an internship at the Congress House recording studio in Austin from Mr. Mark Hallman, and his single caveat was that I had to purchase a Mac and I had to learn how to use it. And I remember, this is about the time I had just joined Facebook not too long before that, and my posts all said posted from Windows Phone, Windows Mobile, and the videos and shit I posted were just fucking potato quality. And then I got gifted an iPhone 3G from somebody. I think my sister probably. Hillary, shout out. And that's when the dam broke. And I was just like, because I had just, a year or two before that, have built a super hot PC, with one of the first multi-core processors. Or no, it was dual processor. It had two individual actual processors. And, a really hot PCI sound card, and was I had just gotten a Dell laptop, and in trying to install a PCM CIA FireWire card so that I could get Pro Tools running on it, it fought me and 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 fought me, and then bricked that fucking laptop. And it was maybe a year old, maybe. And so my ex-wife had a MacBook, and we plugged Pro Tools in, and of course it just started working immediately. And so I bought an iMac, and I migrated to iPhone, and have never looked back. I love me some Apple technology. I will. And I don't give a shit what phone you use. I'm not one of those, fucking phone elitists. I think it's really, really, really questionable mindset. If you care what kind of phone somebody else uses, and or you draw your personal identity from what kind of phone you use, you should probably take a long, hard look at yourself and your motivations and shit. Because who the fuck cares, man? You do what you like. There's a lot of boats out there, and they all need floating. And I personally had when this transition happened, this kind of forced transition, or at least a gently nudged transition from the dark side to the light, I had, it was right at that coinciding point where I was fucking fed up with constantly having to update and fucking modify and fucking tune and fucking personalize and all of, I was and just goddamn sick of it. Just sick to death of it on my phone and my computer. And so migration over to the Apple way of life was both an easy and pleasant one that I have never regretted. Love, love, love my Apple devices. And strangely, hilariously, weirdly, the only thing that I can't seem to make my MacBook do well, frame rate's dropping. What's going on? Stream Health says it's good, but my frame rate is definitely dragging. Okay, there we go. I don't know if my audio drags during that, so I'm probably not gonna if I notice my frame rate dipping like that, I might shut up for a second. But thank you for bearing with me and sticking with me, and thank you for joining me here on the MrNoBones.com program. It is a real fucking pleasure to have created this platform and this experience where I can continue to be myself. I can continue to teach my lessons. I can tell my stories. This is intended to be the project that I started 2 years ago when I bought that MacBook. One of the projects I started was writing a book. People have told me for basically my whole adult life that you should write a book. And that's when I tell them any singular occurrence or story in my life. And I'm like, wow, that's like 1/1000th of the big picture of me and my life's experience. And yeah, see there, dropping again. What's going on, man? I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't know. Who knows? It looks like I'm the only person watching live anyway, though, so it doesn't really matter. But anyway, MrNobones.com and by extension MrNobonesLive.com exist so that when my life ends and I'm no longer on this planet, which is going to happen sooner than it should. It's guaranteed of me due to my illnesses. And my only two real goals in this life have been to be a good dad and to make the world a better place in whatever tiny way that I can. And I've consistently tried my whole adult life to do that, to make the world a better place, and do so in thought, word, and action. And I have also done so in a myriad of ways and in a myriad of contexts. That's why I call myself a multimedia, multi-contextual, multi-platform artist, performer, and teacher. And somebody who has had a lot of experiences, who has spent a lot of time in deep thought, in deep study, in deep meditation, and even deep experimentation. You can hear that. You can hear that. I'm touching the microphone. That means you can hear that. Not just observation and measurement and, scientific method, test, retest, but also in the kind of out on the edges of belief, spiritualism, psychedelia, both caused through metabolizing of sacred molecules, and also through the intense human experience. You will start to hallucinate if you hold your breath too long. You'll start to hallucinate if you go too long without sleep. You'll start to hallucinate if you go too long without eating or drinking. You'll start to hallucinate really fast if you drink seawater. You can fucking do push-ups until you hallucinate. And you can hold yoga postures until you hallucinate. Your brain has several modalities in which it will alter your perception of your lived experience. And I've learned a lot of things, both from high-level teachers, educators, thinkers, philosophizers. But I've also learned a lot on my own through very intense hold on a sec. Hey Brandon. Hey, I'm live streaming. If I got my mic turned down right now, but I'm just letting you know. All right. Sorry, had to talk to my housemate. But I've walked a lot of paths following other people. I've walked a lot of paths internally in my study and education. I've walked a lot of paths philosophically. As far as belief, my relationship with belief, I have made a concerted effort to live as much of the human experience as I can experience, to study information that is generated by people who have the ability to observe and measure reality to a greater degree than I can. Scientists, right? I have made it also, on the flip side of the coin, my goal to study as broadly as I can different cultural belief systems, different, for lack of a better term, magical systems, or just kind of philosophical realms that accept that there is more to reality than we can currently observe and measure in the traditional fashion. But magic is just ancient technology. It's before we figured out how to trap lightning on a piece of silicon with a bunch of tiny wires and switches in it and trick it into doing math for us, and then realizing that math is the foundation of everything, and math is how we study and measure and even predict our constantly growing and expanding understanding of reality, of the nature of reality and the world that we live in, that is far, far greater, infinitely exceeds our the sensory input, our very limited sensory input, and the very limited conceptual world that we hallucinate and believe is real based on our extremely limited sensory organs. Right? So, my belief being in an infinite universe, not only is literally anything possible, but literally everything is possible. Literally every single possibility in every single moment is happening. It's all happening, and it all splays out four-dimensionally, fractally, and our consciousness is just reality observing itself through a tiny pinprick in a piece of cardboard, like you would look at a solar eclipse with, right? And picking one linear ray vector that exists in four-dimensional space and sliding that little pinprick along that linear ray vector for a finite amount of what we would call time, or in this metaphor, distance, and then stopping. And that's happening an infinite number of times by an infinite number of consciousnesses in an infinite number of universes. And that our universe, like all of the alternate universes, exist in a bubble. I believe in the bubble universe hypothesis, theorem. I also am starting to believe a little bit, maybe not fully ascribed to, but definitely suspect that the combined plasma universe and electric universe models, they take the place of dark matter and its place in our unified theory of physics. But our reality, being a bubble that is infinite from the inside looking out, but finite on the outside. It's bigger on the inside. And my understanding is that this is a true statement. And again, if I'm wrong, I'm happy to admit that and learn. I always say, in an infinite universe, the number of things that I know, or I should say, the number of things that I don't know will always outnumber the number of things that I know, right? I, as a teacher, should try to hold true to the white belt mind, to that passion for continued learning and continued growth and education. Only the person who believes that they know enough and have stopped being a student, those are the people who I want to learn from the least. Okay? And so this universe kind of being a bubble that contains a bunch of these pinholes that is just the universe turning around and looking at itself. And on the other side, on this side of those pinholes is us, and we think that we're just us. We're just, I'm a me, I'm an individual, I'm born, I live, and I die. And, you either think that you're really important, you ascribe to a religious system that says, I'm really fucking important, and I'm gonna leave my mark on this world, and then on the other flip side of the coin, we have people, who have a little bit more nihilistic and realistic understanding that people have been on this earth for over 300,000 years, and Homo sapiens have been on this earth for over 300,000 years, and we weren't even the first people here. We coexisted with Neanderthals for a period of about 60,000 years, I believe, and they, and this is verifiable by, the archaeological record, right? Neanderthals had drums, they had animal skin drums, and they had bone flutes before we did. They might have even had fire before we did. Fact check me on that one, chat, please. But we've been, we think of society, right? Civilization. It's just a few thousand years old, right? And most of us who, with the perspective of a life form that, your maximum lifespan is around 100 years, and we think of, 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 100 years, and we 100 years, a century, right, is a really fucking long time. But in the geological sense, it's a blink, and in the cosmic sense, it's nothing. It's not even measurable. It's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a second. And we think of the way that things are now as we assume that that's how they've always been, right? And that's really dumb. In 300,000 plus years, that's enough time for continental drift and shift to occur. That is enough time for, tectonic plate interaction to occur. So land masses can rise or sink by, thousands of meters. Oceans can appear and or disappear. And there is no way to prove that a civilization, maybe not as vast and broad as what we consider civilization on Earth today, right? But a civilization in a smaller geographical scale could have easily reached somewhere close to our level of, if not technological achievement, at least scientific understanding, and very well could have killed themselves off and then the ocean rises, covers the land mass that they existed on, and their entire society and everything that ever was dissolved by the ocean in under 100 years. And yet we just assume that we're the smartest and we're the best and we know the most and we've had the greatest developments and all of that bullshit. And that I can't say for sure that I believe, because once again, I don't know. For as much as I know, and as much as I've studied, and as much as I've educated both myself and been educated by others, there's so much I don't know. But there's a lot that I suspect. And the more that I notice and think, the closer I get to this sense of brushing up against the level of understanding that it takes to truly understand reality in this world we live in. And I started describing the grander, the greater than human experience of reality as the Great Spiral a few years ago. And first I was just simply describing the journey of our solar system through not just space, but time. And that observably from the quantum threshold, right? The smallest order of magnitude where the standard model of physics applies. Outward and upward, as far as we've been able to perceive and measure, that reality seems to be organized in a very specific way that scales to all orders of observable and mathematically measurable and predictable orders of magnitude. That it's consistent, that everything orbits around something else. And that these orbits, once again, occur mapped on a fourth dimensional plane called time. So not only is our solar system spiraling, hurtling through space around our sun, but our sun is spiraling, hurtling through space around something else, which is spiraling, hurtling through space around something else, and we're just stepping up in orders of magnitude in scale. And that time, in the way that we measure it, right, seems to be cyclical. And in the observable rhythms of the cyclical patterns of our rotation around the sun, we recognized patterns starting, thousands and thousands of years ago. And we started to divide these patterns up into day and night, seasons, days, months, and years. And noticed that not only are there cyclical, predictable patterns in nature, in the world around us, right? Like what seasons and the associated changes. But we also notice that there's these weird patterns that are less predictable, but and are much less observable, or I should say measurable. But we experience them and we observe ourselves having that experience, even though it's something that can't be measured. And that strangely, these observable, unmeasurable facets of the human experience are they also kind of happen in a pattern, in a cyclical pattern. And so push pin in that idea. Now we're going to switch to a different kind of concept. And before I say this, I'm going to throw an asterisk up that I understand the difference between science, pseudoscience, and woo-woo. And while I certainly will engage to a degree in pseudoscience, in my attempt to rectify non-measurable, observable events with the understanding of measurable, observable events, what we call science. Trying to reconcile magic and science, right? In my opinion, all science was at one point considered magic until we figured out how to measure it, and then we figured out how to harness it, right? So magic and ancient religion I consider to be ancient technology. It was people trying to use their understanding of the observable world, both measurable and immeasurable, and make things happen, make to affect reality, right? Which is technology, right? All we do with technology, like I said, this thing that I'm transmitting through right now, right? It's a fucking rock with lightning inside and some little strips of metal that we fucking have tricked into doing math, and doing enough math that I can fucking talk to you over the internet right now. The internet being powered by a fucking solar panel sitting in my front yard, right? It's magic. Man, if I've been fucking cutting out a lot, I'm sorry. That really sucks. I just noticed that I have been peaking a little bit, and this thing's got a fucking, it's got a peak. It cuts out on peaks. If I redline this thing, you heard it. Yeah, it stops for a second. So, again, I if I am making a claim that sounds suspect, number one, I will always admit what I know and what I don't know, and I'll tell you what I know and I'll back it up with what I believe. But I'm also completely open to further education, which gives me a deeper and more accurate understanding of life, the universe, and everything. So, one of the concepts, one of the hypotheticals that kind of set me really hard down this weird path of trying to figure out the Great Spiral and life, the universe, and everything, 42, was a few years ago. I was listening into the Joe Rogan podcast, Joe Rogan Experience, and Joe Rogan said something to the effect of, what if inspiration exists in a cloud, in a fixed point, in hyperspace or in four-dimensional space, and when our planet passes through that cloud, that's when we have these really weird, seemingly coincidental intersections where multiple people at this within a tiny time period who are completely disconnected from each other, both informationally and physically, right, by distance, come up with the same brand new innovation almost at the same time, right? And this is kind of that infinite monkeys hypothesis, infinite monkeys theorem, that says if you take an infinite amount of monkeys with an infinite amount of typewriters and you give them an infinite amount of time, eventually they will they will produce Shakespeare. And, this is just a thought experiment to try to help our brain, which physiologically, standardized level, cannot comprehend infinity. Like, everything in our life is finite from our perception. And it's very brain breaky to try to think about infinity. But we know that ancient people, as they began to develop mathematics, geometry, and the related fields of mathematical study and mapping of mathematics visually, graphing, that as ancient people started to play with numbers and graphing those numbers and equations and graphing and mapping those equations, that weird, strangely coincidental patterns began to emerge. And ancient people, referred to these, or I guess we in the modern day refer to these ancient geometrical graphings as sacred geometry. And the weird thing about sacred geometry is, yes, I understand, and yes, I know, and I hear you. I am not into orgonite. I am not into fucking spirit science. I'm not into any of that fucking pseudoscience where you present your beliefs as facts. Okay? Facts are provable, right? Theories are things that have been scientifically proven. I just simply, using my tiny meat brain, have tried very hard for a long time to reconcile my lived experience with my understanding of scientific understanding of reality, my understanding of we can say metaphysics or metaphysical attempts to understand reality, ancient people's attempts to understand reality versus modern people's attempts to understand reality, and reconciling the two, being the generation who are fortunate enough to get to witness the transition from caveman to spaceman. Hopefully, if we can destroy capitalism soon enough, or capitalism crumbles fast enough for us to actually survive this pandemic as a global society, we'll make it to the stars for sure. Or we will continue to allow power and wealth to further concentrate upwards to a smaller and smaller and smaller number of people until capitalism's inherent inefficiency and anti-societal nature gonna kill us, right? If Corona don't get us, fucking climate change will. But if we can bail on capitalism soon enough, we might, hopefully, all be able to put our heads together, all benefit from the technological marvels and plentiful abundance that our planet can provide for all of us. We might make it. And I'm hopeful, I, not gonna lie, I took the doom pill for a little while, and I thought we were fucked. But, I have faith. I have faith that humans, broadly, as a social animal, as a creature who has reached the level of evolution that we have via our social nature, and that society is the way that we got here, not individuality. And the sooner that we realize that we're all one, that money is fucking made up, and that capitalism has allowed, not just allowed, capitalism is specifically designed to reward the worst people the most. The people who are most willing to act in an anti-social manner. The broader scale that you're willing to act in an antisocial manner, the broader a scale that you are able to scoop up wealth and power. And, we got to eat the rich. We got to fucking overthrow capitalism. We got to eat the rich. I am fucking proud as shit of all you Redditors on the Rooster app who are fucking with Wall Street. I am proud as shit of all you who just blasted the value of Dogecoin up and made a bunch of fucking money. The more that we as a people use this magical thing called the internet to join our power and our strength and our genius together across all fucking lines that they have drawn between us, the faster we can eat the fucking rich. And I heard that ivory towers make meat delicious. So let's fucking spit roast them motherfuckers. And like the video for Ooh La La, man. Just that beautiful fucking day when we guillotine every motherfucker who doesn't want to get on board with the fucking the us, the all of us, the all are one movement. And we burn piles of money in the street, and we throw a goddamn party. Garçon, I need another bottle of Moet. And, on that day, we fucking dance in the streets and we pop bottles, because there's plenty for all of us. There's more than enough for all of us. And as a disabled person, I have a very fucking cynical view on this idea of a productive member of society, right? A productive member of society is something that we've been tricked into discriminating against other human beings who are not a fucking productive member of society. But all of being a productive member of society means that you're generating you're generating a greater amount of value than you personally need to survive. And now, not just you generate more value than you need to survive, but you generate value and then you're given back a slice of it that is not enough to survive. And fuck you. We're going to keep squeezing tighter and tighter until we wheel them fucking guillotines out, man. And kind of coming back around on the Great Spiral theorem. A qubit is it's a quantum computing term, and we've hit the theoretical limit for processor power. That's why we keep having to build more and more multi-core processors, because we hit the physical limitation of processor speed quite some time ago. And the only way to get processors to go any faster is to make them out of superconducting materials that electrons can travel down with no resistance, because the inherent resistance of gold or whatever conductive materials that we use is that's the physical limit for processing speed. And so on one hand, we're researching and putting a lot of resources into developing practical superconducting materials, because right now superconducting materials, you have to keep them at absolute zero for them to have superconducting properties. But we're starting to find getting closer, I should say, to room temperature superconducting. But even then, we are limited by the inherent processor architecture that we use. It can only get so small. But the other side of we need to get more processor power research and development is quantum computing. And quantum computing uses the observer principle in quantum mechanics to control whether a quantum particle is flipped up or down, because it's as you guys probably heard, misappropriated conceptually by like The Secret, and other woo-woo bullshit. The observer theory the observer principle says, it doesn't take a consciousness observing a quantum particle to cause it to exist or not, right? It's just measurement. And so measuring it with anything, when it's observed, it flips up or on, because we compute using a binary system, 1 or 0. And so in quantum computing, we have qubits, which is a single quantum particle that is, when it's measured, it exists, and when it's not measured, it stops existing. It's a 1 or a 0. And quantum teleportation is another misnomer, that we're not truly teleporting in the way that we think of like Star Trek, like turn something matter to energy, transmit it, and then turn it back into matter somewhere else. Quantum teleportation is actually, technically, truly, should be called quantum entanglement. And quantum entanglement is where we currently use lasers to quantum entangle 2 qubits at a distance. And they maintain synchrony at a distance where when one flips up, the other flips down. So, up until recently, we were kind of stuck at like 7 or 8 miles that we could maintain synchrony at a distance, quantum entanglement. But we just recently had a really significant increase in our technique, our technology to do this. And so we jumped an order of magnitude by 10. So instead of 8 miles, it was 80 miles. And that's getting bonkers, you guys. That's fucking magic. Because the thing about quantum entanglement is no matter how far apart the two qubits are, the flip from when one flips, the change in the state of the two qubits, the two entangled qubits, is instantaneous. There's no ping. There's no lag, right? There's no lag on that ping. And so qubits as a concept. And synchrony at a distance as a concept. And coincidence as a concept. Coincidence. The way that things coincide. In science, coincidences are considered meaningless. They have no scientific relevance. It's just a unlikely thing, an improbable thing that happened. And so, but to a human, when we see coincidence, it feels very significant. Like, whoa. Like, I just saw magic. I just observed something excitingly improbable. But there it was, right in front of me. And if you take any two disparate ray vectors, okay, straight lines, and that are divergent, and you graph them to infinity, they will eventually coincide. And so coincidence is both meaningful and meaningless. Because, again, if we are all just consciousnesses sliding along ray vectors in infinite 4D space, all possible vectors, and remember we talked about fractal reality, every vector is every moment along your observable, measurable, plotted vector of consciousness outside of your perception intersects with every other ray vector, not just in all of the infinite versions of your life, but in the infinite versions of every particle in existence. And so now for me, the Great Spiral doesn't just represent the cyclical path through space or the cyclical path through space time, it starts to become a unifying theorem of the theoretically, hypothetically plottable intersections of all infinite reality that occur along the pinhole sliding along a linear ray vector that we call our lifetime. And oh my God, I probably, I should have taken my meds. I'm like I didn't take my 1 o'clock meds, of course, and it's now, because I started at 1:45 and I was getting ready, and it's now 4. God damn, that means I'm hurting. I'm in a lot of pain, so probably be wrapping it up pretty soon. But that's my computer telling me to take a nap. We know scientifically that energy and matter are both waves. That energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only change form. That energy can become matter because on a quantum level, quantum particles pop in and out of existence constantly. And we know that when you split an atom, there's an incredible amount of energy released, right? An atom bomb. And that we, being a consciousness attached to a skeleton wrapped in meat, that all of our particles, all of our atoms consist of 99% empty space. So you are 99% nothing. That on an atomic level, atoms don't touch each other. That atoms on a subatomic level are surrounded by a force field that presses up against the force field around other atoms. And our extremely limited sensory data set, sensory input, causes a lump of fat with electricity trapped inside of it to hallucinate that this wave exists and I'm touching it. It's a camera, you know? But we're not. We've never you have never in your entire life touched anything. You that are 99% nothing. And photons being proof of that not only can a wave become a particle and a particle become a wave, but that some particles can exist as particles and waves simultaneously. That's light, that's photons. And that we are a wave. We are waves. We are a collection of waves. And a wave is measured in frequency and amplitude, right? How many cycles per, how many oscillations per measurement cycle, and what is the amplitude of the rise and the trough? That is a wave. And when we map that two-dimensionally, we get a wave, what we think of as a wave on paper. When you map it three-dimensionally, it becomes a spiral, right? Or it becomes a circle. And then when you map that four-dimensionally across time, it becomes a spiral. And reality is, we exist in an infinite reality, both internally, bigger on the inside, but also infinitely that our universe, all of the fractal spread of reality that can be represented mathematically in the bubble universe theorem. And there's an interesting thing about the bubble universe theorem, it being a mathematical, hypothetical equation. It predicted there is a thing called the background microwave radiation field of the universe. And our current hypothesis on it and why it exists and what it is that it's the massive amount of energy that was released in the Big Bang. And that that represents the outer edges of our universe that is not infinite, that is finite, but it's always expanding, and it should be slowing down as the energy decreases, and eventually we'll reach the end of all potential energy in the universe, where the balance between potential energy and work will finally reach equilibrium. And that'll be called, it's the heat death of the universe, right? It's the theoretical end. Except now we had to use dark matter, which does not exist. It has never and will never be observed or measured, because dark matter is just a fudging of the math in the unified theory of physics to explain the vast amount of what we see as empty space, but that the math says there must be matter here, or else the universe would not be expanding in this way that we expect it to. And now we're even seeing that, oh shit, based on this model that we've plugged in this fake number called dark matter, it predicted the speed and the distance at which the universe should be expanding based on our belief of the Big Bang. And what we're seeing is that it's not expanding in the way that we predicted. Oopsie doopsie. So, but in our observation and measurement of the background radiation field of the universe, we have observed interference, disruptions in the uniformity of the energy field. And those disruptions, those differences, are predicted in the bubble universe theorem's mathematics as places where the finite exterior of the infinite amount of bubble universes that exist in fractal space, in infinite space, where they're rubbing up against each other. And, again, we're at a point where a huge amount of the unified model of physics has been measured, has been proven, has been accurate, but now we're getting out into the fringes where things are starting to not line up. And it's a lot of it has, personally, if you ask me, to do just with the the ego of scientists who believe that they've already learned what there is to learn and they don't need to learn anymore, right? We figured out this dark matter thing. We predicted it. It must be real. But my final thought is that things like the collective consciousness, which I believe, you can call it the Gaian supermind. I love that. That's a great terminology. But, not only do we have a collective consciousness, and we move through, what I've used to call clouds of inspiration. And then I just called them like spirally moments where if you study the rhythms of your life, you start to see these weird patterns emerge. And, pattern recognition is one of the innate abilities of a consciousness. Another innate ability of a consciousness is to recognize harmony versus dissonance. And train of thought. Just totally lost it. That basically, a human being, if a consciousness, if a soul is the electricity that lives in this lump of fat in your head and moves through your nervous system and makes you do stuff and see and think and feel things, that your soul has a qubit at its core, and it's either flipped up or down, and that can explain why some people gravitate towards harmony and what we would recognize as universal beauty, and why others gravitate towards dissonance and unfortunately, we've created a system where people who gravitate towards dissonance are the ones who hold all the chips, and we got to fix that. And the only way that we can do that is unifying, coming together. All are one. God damn it. The Gaian supermind and the unification of shamanic thought, spiritualistic thought, metaphysical thought versus not versus, but unified with scientific thought, science, and objective, measurable reality, right? And by the more that you are able to unify your nervous system, the more that you're able to perceive a little further outside of the boundaries of normal human cognitive function. And the more that you unify heart, mind, and gut, and use your consciousness to create a circuit between heaven and earth, and unify your disparate sections of your nervous system into what I call the meat antenna, and then notice and study your ability to perceive harmony and to perceive pattern recognition. That I call this reading the tea leaves of reality. And that coincidence is both incredibly meaningful and totally meaningless. That chaos is order. And all you have to do is open your mind a little bit or a lot bit and notice, just notice that there is a greater order than just the physical order that we currently subscribe to. And I believe that, what people call manifestation or magic, the ability to use magic really just comes down to your ability to unify your nervous system, to clean yourself out internally of as much junk that gets in your way, and then notice the patterns that form when you observe chaos at different orders of magnitude. You will feel yourself being drawn towards a point glittering in hyperspace in your future. And you will feel yourself being pulled towards this four-dimensional dwell points. And four-dimensional dwell points are places where many, many, many disparate ray vectors in infinite space intersect. And these are the times when huge societal things just seem to pop out of nowhere, or many people are suddenly inspired to do the same or similar things, or we experience deja vu, we experience ghosts, we experience precognition and predict, precognitive dreaming, four-dimensional dwell points, glittering in hyperspace. And if you're too full of greed and ego and just small, finite thinking, feeling, belief, you're not going to be able to perceive what you need to perceive to feel yourself being pulled towards this point in your future. And God, I had one more thought, and it just fucking floated on me. But you can go to mrnobones.com, go to the blog section, go to my music videos as well. Please listen to my remix of a track by the Shaman called Re-Evolution. It's the Dead Monster remix. There's a lot of information in there that relates to kind of this concept and kind of has helped inform my greater worldview. You can also find some of my blog writings about the Great Spiral and some of my other philosophies and maxims, coded language. I like to, as a teacher, I like to speak in maxims, which are language that is coded in such a way that a lot of information is transmitted with a small amount of words, and leaving you with this thought that everything is also everything else. And that, like I said, unify heart, mind, and gut. Find and hold your center. On here. It says excellent connection, but I'm fucking seeing a spinny. But anyway, in an infinite reality, reality is weird. And reality is a weird place to live. So, in conclusion, thank you for listening to me ramble and talk. I need to go check on my batteries and stuff. I'm sure my solar panel is now no longer in the sun, and I should probably move it if I can catch any more sunshine. But it's also really overcast, so probably going to have to gather some electrons in some other ways as well. So I will leave you with a deep gratitude and thankfulness of your willingness to sit here and listen to me rant about nonsense. I invite you to please go to mrnobones.com. Enjoy my art, my music, my writings, my philosophy, my speaking. All my old live streams are available there. You can go to mrnobones.com/support at any time and contribute to my continued existence. I am disabled and I have no income, and this is my job. I work for free. The only way that I get paid is if you find it in your heart to compassionately share your abundance with me, and I provide many convenient ways to do that at mrnobones.com/support. Also on mrnoboneslive.com, if you're enjoying my live stream there, you can very easily log in using your Facebook, your YouTube, or your Twitch account and donate directly to me during my live streams. You'll get extra credits by, theoretically, they're on-screen prompts or, pop-ups and shit should happen. But it's not configured currently because I'm streaming from my phone. But, ooh, look at that. My logo just fucking popped. That was weird. So, yeah, hit me up. And, I'm, after experiencing 3.5 years of being unhoused and only being supported by my extremely generous family, my mom, on the dwindling resources that my mom was granted by my adopted father being wrongfully paralyzed and then dying at the fault of the Cessna Corporation. I'm also now have a home to live in due to my new family and my new life. My life partner is able to provide a home and food for me to eat, but at the same time, I want to keep making art. I want to keep teaching lessons. I want to keep telling stories. And the only way that I can do that is if you guys help me out, support me, like this video on YouTube, subscribe, share my YouTube channel, share mrnoboneslive.com, and just thanks. Thank you for continuing to believe in me and participate in this thing that I'm doing. And just remember, safety third, stay healthy, keep it playful, love, play, fight the power. All cats are beautiful, but you can't hug every cat. The Great Spiral is real, and reality is a weird place to live. I'm Mr. No Bones. I love you. Thank you.